For over 90 years, we've been crash testing our cars in the tireless pursuit of automotive safety. At Volvo, safety's been first since 1927. We've saved millions of lives with the invention of the three-point seatbelt in 1959. At Volvo, we've made driving safer for you and them. Visit safety.finleyvolvo.com to learn more.
So they say if you give a man a gun, he'll rob a bank. But if you give a man a bank, he'll rob everybody. The good news for you is Private Money Club runs solely on peer-to-peer relationships, which means no banks allowed. So finally, there's a community for real estate entrepreneurs where it is truly a win-win solution. This community is a place where you can connect with other lenders and other borrowers, and the end result's massive growth for you. You get to build your real estate empire, and you get to do it solving other people's problems. So if that sounds like a place you want to be, well then join us. Go to privatemoneyclub.com/Kelly. And if you want $500 off, just add the code Kelly500 and I'll knock $500 off the premier membership. We'll see you on the inside.
Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, you might hear me stutter at the very beginning, but that is because this is one of the most important men. And when we got a chance to talk earlier, before we actually started recording, I want every single one of you who's listening right now, I want you to stop, put it on pause, and I want you to go get a notebook, because every single thing that he is going to drop is an absolute gem. I am absolutely blown away in the amount of time that we got to spend together. We became fast friends. I already told him that I was going to force him to be my friend for the rest of his life. He has the greatest style, and it made me feel like I was, I needed to go home and get dressed. But I want to welcome to the show His Royal Majesty, Drolor Bosso Adamtey I, Suapolor of the Say State, and Mache, or King of the Shai Traditional Area of Ghana, West region of Ghana. This man is not only a humanitarian, an educator, a social scientist, a best-selling author, but he is one of the most powerful human beings that you will ever experience. And I am so honored to be able to have His Royal Majesty on the show today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on the show, King Adamtey the First.
It is my greatest honor, privilege to be with you and the wonderful people out there.
So we were talking, I want to jump right in, because I know as far as time frame, I want to respect your time, but you are like, I almost took 15 pages of notes before we even started the show. And what we were talking about is a king, when a king prays and fasts. And this was not only one of your best-selling books, but also people are taking from you from all over the world. When they write about fasting, they're using you as a reference. Can you give some insight into the power of praying and fasting in today's world?
Thank you so very much, Kelly. One of the aspects of fasting, and one of the most important things that fasting does in our lives, is that fasting prepares us and gives the way for the flesh to submit to our spirit man, so our spirit man will be able to commune or communicate with God effectively without any hindrance. You know so well in this life that if you are an athlete and you are actually going out there to perform, put out your best bet, you want to make sure that you are properly hydrated, so that when you go out, but you make sure that you don't put so much in your system so that you go and get sluggish. Food, as good as it is for our body, at times can keep you to be sluggish, and also can literally weaken your spiritual power. Jesus made a very clear statement, and he demonstrated when he began his ministry. The Bible tells us that he went into the wilderness and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights before he initiated his work. He is God in the flesh. He is a king in the flesh. He's a redeemer in the flesh. He's a healer in the flesh, and a restorer of broken hearts and broken dreams in the flesh. But yet he did not initiate it with his own intelligence, but he initiated it with fasting. And when he fasted, we were told that he was empowered for his service. So Jesus spent 30 years in preparation to just give us 3 years of effective ministry. No wonder his name has become a wonder in the world, because he initiated with prayer and fasting. The disciples encountered a difficulty and they were asking questions. And Jesus made it clear to them. He says, you know what? This kind of things that you are requiring cannot happen except by prayer and fasting. So prayer and fasting is very, very important. It is good not only for salvation, but it's good for continual service. And everything that we do, we should even remember when you are going to the hospital many times for examination, critical surgeries, they'll tell you to come on a fast. Why? Because they want to make sure that your body is sync, is in the right place, so that when you go through the process, you not have anything to disturb the very help you come for. So fasting is important. Our body needs to be detoxed, and fasting helps us to detox our body. It helps us clear our minds, the cloudiness in our minds, and it prepares us or positions us to be effective, sharp, effective, and get the kind of results that is needed. So the book on prayer and fasting is part of my very life. It has become the example of millions of people around the world. And I am grateful that it has helped people who have gotten into critical positions in the world, whether it be presidents of nations. They have read the book before they got into office. Others read it when they have crises and challenges. And the testimonies that have come forth is amazing. Many lives have been helped. Many families have been restored. I mean, individuals had found the benefit of prayer and fasting. And it is an act that can never end today. As long as we are in this life, we are in this flesh, fasting is very key for our survival and also for our total victory in this life.
Your Majesty, when we were talking earlier, it was amazing because you not only spoke about humility, you didn't say the word, but you displayed it. And when we talked about being a king, which I got to tell you this, when I told all my friends, hey guys, they told me what they were doing this weekend. They said, I had to go to some soccer games. I'm going to take care of the kids, whatever it is. And they said, what are you doing today? I almost didn't want to tell them. And then I was like, I got to tell them. I get a chance to spend time with the king of the western region of Ghana. And they were like, that's not normal. But what you showed me was the humility, and you helped me to understand how a king can stay humble. Can you share that with them?
Yeah. Now, a king, the interesting thing is that the greatest role of a king is to first and foremost serve. A king leads, a king rules, a king is the embodiment of his people, and a king preserves his kingdom by preserving the citizens of the kingdom. So the first foremost work of a king is not your power, but the influence you exude as a servant leader. So kingship also is the right position, which gives us the examples that we've tried to implement in our daily business work. Leaders. That's what a king is. A leader and a king is not one who commands people and tell them this and that, even though his word become law and his words are his decree. And what he says, he cannot take back, because the king's character, the king's reliability, and the king's attitude, three things: the king's character, the king's reliability, and the king's attitude is in his words. So before the king speaks, the leader speaks. He speaks. He thinks it through, and he speaks for the benefit of every citizen in his kingdom. Because without the people, you have no kingdom. And with the people, your kingdom becomes known. So when you are a king, you serve the people. When you are a king, they reverence you, but you respect them. They love you, but you first have to love them. They will serve you, but at critical points, you have to provide the kind of service that only the lowest can provide. Because you know what makes a king powerful? Again, is his servanthood. Because the kingdom that God has even created and the kingdom of this life, if a king serves his people, you become the greatest of all. Any king who is not humble fails. Any king who doesn't serve the people's interest is overthrown or disregarded. Because if you want to be great, even in God's kingdom, you must be the servant of all. And the greatness in God's kingdom is royalty, priesthood, peculiar people. So a king, my job is to serve my people. I think about them every day, every minute, every hour. Are they okay? Are they properly cared for? Are they strong? Are they healthy? Are they free from external forces that will crush them? Have they eaten? What is the future of my people? So for me, and as a king, everyone in your kingdom, they are not only your children, your sons, they are your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your aunties. You live for them and they live for the preservation of the kingdom. So kings are not supposed to die and be gone. Their names supposed to live forever. That is why every king that comes has title numbers attached to their name. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Because it is believed that the works of kings never die. Their works, which is their character, reliability, and the attitude they exuded or demonstrated whilst they are alive, is what the people remember. So when their names are called, this is what he said: "O King, live forever. Live forever." So we as believers, I'm a king, but I believe in the greatest of all kings. The king that I believe in, he lives forever. And whenever his name is mentioned, the name that is more glorified has been mentioned. And because he's a king and he came to serve us, he left his throne above, his glory above, his power above, and he took upon him the cloak of a servant, yet royal. He put his gown to the side and put towel around his waist and washed the feet of dirty disciples, yet a king. And he said, this is what you should do one for another, because that's what the king does, and that's what his kingdom citizens respond to. They respond to servanthood, because I am a servant leader, a king who is there because the people empower me to serve them and serve them well.
So, Your Majesty, in you have world leaders. You're a world leader, and you have world leaders come to you all the time to talk about their economies, to talk about their cultures, and how to be able to move things forward. One of the first things in business that they will always tell you is that you don't bring up any belief system. You need to stay away from that. Although on the flip side of it, you are ruling and leading at the highest level, and that is at the core. How are you able to do that when everyone in the world tells us not to do that?
Kelly, you know something I've discovered in life? It's very interesting. Everything in life is subject to negotiations. Everything. Life is about negotiations. Now, remember, we had a great rapport. Just talking to you, it's like you have known me for most of your life, and like I've known you for most of my life. And I believe we are going to be friends for as long as I live. But the beauty of it is this: it was negotiations. The point is, if I am a leader, most people call me or call upon me because one thing they always say is this: we appreciate your wisdom. We appreciate your wisdom. And that is one thing I asked God for. I didn't ask God for fame, power, or anything. I said, God, give me wisdom. And God said to me, if I give you wisdom, I will make you influential. Because wisdom and influence is greater than knowledge and power. So many people are knowledgeable and powerful, but yet they lack wisdom and influence. But the fact that you are influential, you are automatically powerful. But you can have power. That's why we are politicians with power, but they have no influence. So one thing that people of the world ask me for, they ask me for my wisdom. But in my simplest way, I remind them that what they ask me to help them to do comes from a particular source. And I always introduce them to the one who had freely given me this grace. And they never dispute that. And I freely share with them who he is and who he is in my life and why they continuously seek guidance and direction from me and what he continues to do. So I have found out that you can negotiate with anyone in the world. It's negotiations. They want my wisdom. I said, do you want my wisdom? They say, yes, because we are in crisis, dire needs. And right after I finish with you, I'll be on the phone talking to two leaders of the world, two heads of states in the world. The reason why I'm doing that is because they needed my time. And I said, I am going to be on a podcast with a very great man, and I'll come to you. Some of them will wait. They won't go to bed. They are many hours ahead of us. They will wait until I come. And the reason why it's so is because what they need, I have. What I have comes from God. So if God is going to use me to help give solution to their concerns, then they can wait. It's all about negotiations. So nobody dispute or fight me, whether they are atheists, communists. I mean, I mean, it makes no difference because wisdom is appreciated if it's presented in wisdom.
Mm. How can a person gain wisdom? This is what I was just reading. I read corresponding proverb, corresponding day, and today it was in Proverbs 8. It was talking about that if you do anything in life, then seek God. When you seek God, you'll gain wisdom. When you gain wisdom, then he'll give you knowledge. That knowledge will be able to give you discretion, and that discretion will give you discipline. But how can somebody, Your Majesty, access wisdom?
Wisdom can only be accessed through the principle of humility. If you know too much, wisdom will be of no value to you. But if you are a student of what is right and you are open, you gain wisdom. And also, association determines how one processes wisdom. If you act wise, it's because either you are influenced by wise people. The Bible says, he that walks with the wise become wiser. He that walks with the wise become wiser. So it comes by association. So when you walk with wise people, your words will demonstrate that yes, you have gained certain experience. Let me give you another scriptural example, since we are using the greatest book of all times. And I believe in that book because that book carries the principles for life. Anything in the book addresses concerns of the past, the present, even the future. There was a man called Peter. He was very, very, very brute with his words. But after a shortest time with Jesus, in Christ's absence, they took note. They said, oh, this Peter, we know he speaks by heart, but we know that he has been with Jesus because wisdom was exuding out of his life. So association can increase wisdom or can promote foolishness. So if you hang with wise people, you listen to the word of God, which is words of wisdom, you literally comport yourself and you actually process things. I mean, you process things. You don't make rash decisions and you make decisions cautiously and also looking at the bigger picture. Then wisdom will actually become part of your life. And wisdom also comes through asking God. Some people gain wisdom through the things they've experienced. Some people have to make a lot of mistakes to only realize that the experience they have gained leads them to wisdom. So at times it is better not to go through the route of destroying people, yourself, and all the loved ones to gain wisdom. Spend time with wise people. You shortcut. I mean, you take a better way out, and you can avoid some headaches that may not be necessary to go through. So prayer brings wisdom. Asking God's will brings wisdom. Looking at the bigger picture brings wisdom. And processing things cautiously also adds to wisdom. I'll give you an example. When I was young, I was always concerned about what young people my age were doing. I knew I was very different because somehow I knew my purpose when I was 6 years old. I knew exactly what I wanted to become. So I didn't waste my time. Now, when everybody was following everybody, I was more cautious. And I asked myself questions. Why should I follow popular ideas when in actual fact, some of the ideas after a year or two hurts these people that are following? I rather they follow me because I am following a one who has actually proven track record. So I use that to measure my life. So by the time I reach a certain age, some of my friends will just come back to tell me, well, we know that when we were doing these things, you were not part of it. And I say to them, because I was slightly conscious of the pain I would put myself through if I follow your positions. But I have to watch things. And at times, you can observe people to learn what not to do. If you want to learn without going through heartaches, watch failures, and you will always do what is right. Watch how people fail and do the opposite of what you've done.
Well, you've dedicated yourself to not only wisdom, but also to, and I've never seen this happen where a person is so steeped in the wisdom, but also you've dedicated yourself to the education. You have not one, not two, not three, but you're on your way to another. So right now you have 3 doctorates. We won't talk about the one that was honorary too, which would make it 4. And then there's another one coming. Most people never have that, Your Majesty, in their whole entire life. How have you been able to stay in that pocket of the wisdom part, giving glory to God, when you continue to seek after higher education? Because a lot of times those things conflict.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, I am chancellor of different universities in 3 different countries. It was 4, but now 3. And I'm also the founder of the Global Leadership Center right here in the Research Triangle Park, and also the DROLOR Center for Strategic Leadership, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation. The interesting thing is there's no conflict. Kelly, I've discovered that every human being can do 5 things at the same time. Every human being can do 5 things. I discovered this very early. Now, but I realized that many people focus on one. But I realized that I can do the 5 things. And I knew this thing when I was 10, 11 years old, that I can do multiple things. And I'm multitasked. That is why I'm able to do all these things in different spaces without losing a beat. But let me tell you something, Kelly, at my age, which I'm quite young, but 60 plus, at my age, let me say to you, I have only fulfilled 30% of my life's mission, only 30%. And my problem is I don't want to die taking the balance of what I own the world to the grave. I want to die empty. And the reason why my education and these things doesn't conflict is because I know how to put things in their prospective role places. Now, I am a husband to my wife. I am a father to my children and those I've adopted as children. And I am a spiritual leader, or what you call a visionary founder or pastor of a local congregation. So when I come home to my children, I am their daddy. I am not their husband. I'm their daddy. To my wife, I am her husband. To the congregation, I am their pastor. To the kingdom of, and around the world, I am their king. So what happens is I know how to compartmentalize things, so there's no conflict. So my energy is distributed effectively without loss. I can do some more. So my education is to demonstrate to me that if I'm going to serve and I'm going to do something of importance or value to God, I have to be excellent at it. I do not want to provide anything as a leader that is haphazard. I want to provide the kind of leadership or give the best, because I have a saying, I coined a saying some years ago, and this is it. When best is available, better is not good enough. So I learned that I can use my mind, my faculty to operate in all these spaces, and I can do all of them at the same time. Now I'll give you an example. I speak 13 different languages. Okay. Now, my wife is Spanish. My wife is Spanish. I speak Spanish. But the interesting thing is, I ask myself the question, how do I become effective and fruitful? Because the word fruitfulness is important to me. Not success, but fruitfulness. Because if you are fruitful, you are successful. How can I be fruitful and how can I be of benefit to humankind? And how can I improve on people's lives? So these things have helped me to realize that, hey, if you have certain posture, in other words, you have the right attitude and the right understanding to the way you see things in life, your attitude will take you further than your aptitude. So I believe strongly that my education actually gives me validation and qualification to address the kind of platforms that needs what I believe and they believe I can contribute to make life better for them. So my education is not a distraction. I am a student. I'm a perpetual student. What I know, I only know. What you know, I don't know. But if I'm open, humble enough to learn some things from you, I would acquire new knowledge, new experience, and new information that will help me in the process of life.
So, Your Majesty, you've been such a proponent of education, and not only just education, but also helping for underserved areas and underserved people to be able to access education. Why has this been so important to you?
If you are going to succeed, or you are going to actually find certain fulfillment in life, you have to be exposed to the proper information, proper opportunities, and also you have to be well informed so that you make decisions intelligently. And all these things come through the process of education. Education will unlock the things that are hidden in your heart, which you have to do. So I believe in giving scholarships, and that's what I've done. I give scholarships, and I started this many years ago, many years ago, since 1990. I believe that if I can help someone or anyone within my ability to actually gain education, I've given them something that money cannot buy. Because education will open them up to the entire world and also expose them to opportunities that will make them help themselves, help their families, help their communities, help their countries, and also help the world. Because English is not my first language. I learned it. This education has afforded me the opportunity to impact over 100 nations around the world. If I didn't learn how to speak, I wouldn't be able to speak to you. And in this life, no matter if you have experience and you are unable to be educated, then what is intelligent to be communicated will never come across. So I believe in giving everyone equal access to education, boys and girls. Give people opportunity or allow them to learn the skills that will help them to be productive citizens and also help build their own homes and families. So everything I'm doing today, my greatest concern is that Gen X, Y, and Z, they are the people that I feel I am going to touch and reach. Because I'm very progressive when it comes to education. I don't look at education through the lens of in the vacuum, but I'm looking at education that is practical and that can also be beneficial to people of certain geographical areas. There are certain educations here that do not benefit people in Asia or Africa. And there are certain education there that do not benefit here. So I want to make sure that we train people within their geographical communities or areas and empower them with tools that will make them be productive in their communities, their countries, and should they want to go abroad, they should learn certain skills that can help them succeed wherever they go. Because education is an investment that never goes wrong. No matter how old you are or young you are, investing in education is investing in a very robust, successful, and effective society for tomorrow.
Your Majesty, when I listen, and like I was telling the people, when you listen, you better have a notebook. And if you're not, you better just go back and take so many notes on what it is that you're talking about. A lot of times people overlook the simple answer for the shiny object, the thing that is complicated. And what my pops always taught me was that people have the tendency to make things complicated so they seem important. You make things so simple because you don't want the emphasis, or this is what I'm gathering, is you don't want the emphasis to be on you. You want it to be on the principles so people can move forward. What are some of the simple things that we could do in this country right now because of all the unrest? If they looked at the simple answers, how could some of these things be solved?
That is a good question. But I would say this. I believe that most of the challenges that we are facing today are results of abuse of power by a few people who are in position of trust. When there's abuse of power and the people get tired of it, they will lack trust for those in power. And they will be disconnected. So what is happening around the world is that there are some few people who realize they can take advantage of people's vulnerability or people's aspirations or people's hopeful wishing, hopefulness. So they take power and they abuse it. What is happening here is happening in various parts of the world in different forms. And the younger generation are the ones who are going to actually come together to fix the mess that generation past has created and the debt that is going to be left for them and the walls and the mistrust that they're trying to create. Because this young generation, they want to come together. They want to fix the wrongs and actually reset the world as they know it so that everybody will see each other through the lens of humanity instead of through the lens of race, through the lens of haves and have-nots. So I feel that we can actually help the discussion and we can facilitate or create an atmosphere conducive for dialogue without antagonizing or attacking each other. As a citizen of Ghana and a citizen of the United States of America, I can tell you the difference that I see and where, for example, America is heading. United States, like Europe, like Asia, like the Middle East, and all that is happening, most of it is stirred up. And there are some special interests who are creating all this mess for and against. And those who are caught in between are the innocent people who have trusted those in power. And yet those in power taking advantage of their lack of exposure to what is truly happening on the ground. You see, I'm going to make a point here. The most trusted institutions that we know is the political institutions and the religious institutions. These are the two most respected institutions, the political and the religious. Now, politicians are very smart. They have influence over the religious, even though the religious does not operate without the political side. And then you have the special interest, those who controls the money, the business or the financial side. So you have religion, politics, and money. And the one who has money, special interest, buys all the people, pay their bills, and promotes their causes. So the serious challenges that we have today, it has nothing to do with the politicians. It has nothing to do with the religious. It's got to do with special interest people who push buttons because they buy their interest. So the politician is not fighting for his interest. He's fighting for the one who put him in power. Then the religious get caught up because there are some words that if you use buzzwords, the religious people will jump on. Because remember, Christians, religious people, most of them are not properly educated. So if you want to hide something from them, put it in the book. They don't read. So the religious people, majority are not properly educated. They are not exposed. So somebody will tell you, I'll give you an example. If you're religious, I know what to press your button. And if I use certain words trying to press your button, if I use the word abortion, if I use the word First Amendment, if I use the word Israel, there are certain things that if I use the words, it will get you roused. And I can use the word, like far left and far right. So most people are caught in between and fighting unnecessarily. And yet the politicians, they may go and fight and debate, but they are best of friends. They attend each other's funerals, each other's weddings. They go on vacation together because they know it's a game. And the one who is benefiting is the one who is on the side, who has special interest. And he will send his lobbyist to go stir the waters. And this is what is happening. So the challenge that we are seeing today is real. The truth is, money, as we know it, the Bible tells us that money answereth all things. But the truth is, money cannot do all things, but it answers all things. So our problem today, all back and forth, they are motivated by economics. And there's some special interest people who run the show. So how do we give hope to the young people? How do we tell businessmen, please use your resources for positive causes? How do we tell religious people, let's make sure that the religious community doesn't get at each other's throat? At least try our very best, respectively. Everybody is proselyting. That is, growth is part of expansion. Christianity cannot be Christianity in isolation. The mission is go to the world and proclaim the gospel. Islam cannot be Islam in isolation. They are taking over the world by building mosques all over the world and literally empowering governments to become Islamic. The Jewish side is you have those who don't expand, they just contentment. And if those in the diaspora will move back to Israel and use the economic base to sustain and fight make sure that they protect the holy city, they are safe. So everyone is looking at all of these, irrespective of which position you will stand on. We are dealing with a time bomb, which needs to be addressed. But you know what? I believe nations from the young generation would like to come together, and they're still interested to correct the wrongs of the past. both generation past and present, and we have to help them. And I do feel Christianity has a great place and a great role to play because we are supposed to be what we call peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. We are peacemakers. We are also the ones who are supposed to negotiate, mediators, and bring people who are alienated from the commonwealth of God's grace to come into the kingdom of God. We've got a lot of work to do. And the challenge that we have as Christians is that we don't put our money to promote the kingdom, but we put our money to promote politics.
Your Majesty, it's amazing how consistent. I mean, because for those of you listening, with me listening, you just took it full circle. We talked about education first, and you talked about the importance of languages and to be able to communicate that education. And the missing link to people coming together is them actually taking the time to educate themselves in other cultures and to be able to communicate. Help me to understand this too, is because when you have world leaders all over that come to you for advice. There's a two-part question. One, what is the percentage of the people that ask for your advice that actually implore it? And then, what is the common theme of the type of advice that they're asking? Or does it have a common theme when it comes through?
Also, the percentage of those who ask is a large percentage. But yet, I'll put it this way, maybe 25-30% of the 1% of those who make decisions for our world seek my counsel.
Wow. So we're talking of one third of the top 1%. So we're talking of the world leaders, the 1% world leaders, 1/3 of them come to Your Majesty. Like they come to you to talk about things, to help them through things.
I mentor quite a few of them. Directly and personally. They travel to see me, both here or in Africa or any place where they can freely share their heart, their concerns for their nations, their peoples, and also their industries. I am very humbled, though, that at least they can trust me to help them, or they can trust that my advice can actually put them in right places. There are those also who had actually graciously made me aware that my counsel had helped them to create billions of dollars. There are those who said, when we came to you, we were struggling, or when we came to you, we didn't know which way to turn to, but you helped us. You helped us to create a plan, strategy, and implementation. And others who say that, you know what, this is what we have done, or this is where we are. We are stuck. We need some direction, and we need, unbiased wisdom from you. And I would say that it's quite humbling, but I'm grateful that at least they can rely on me, or they can trust that what I share with them had been of benefit, for which they maintain relationship with me for many, many, many years. I also say that the world is ready for a change, and change is in the air. There's a change in the air. People are actually tired of the same old, and they want to see if there is answers to some of today's problems, or what could be breath of fresh air that can actually take their minds off the everyday mundane struggles that they're going through. So I do think to do some of these things, one have to be very creative and also innovative. You don't only help people solve their problems, but you have to be innovative and creative and help them to also find creative ways to advance in their specific areas or their specific missions in life. So for those who've come, in the end, most of them open themselves and trust the God I trust and the Jesus I love. So, it is what actually gives me the most satisfaction. I have had them irrespective of their religious positions. And the fact is, When I did theology, when I did my doctorate in philosophy, I did comparative religions. So I've done extensive study on religions, and I know much about religions. And also as a philosopher, I did a lot about, the philosophy of living. What makes people do what they do and why they do what they do. So, and also as an educator, and also but I started as an engineer. Around, I realized that everything that I've learned exposed me to be inquisitive for knowledge and hungry for solutions. And I think most who have come at times too, they need to at least talk to someone that they feel can understand them. Many people are looking for those who can help them offload some of their burdens. But unfortunately, when they go to them, the answers they get does not help solve their problems. Some who need help, may come and tell you one, two, and three, this is what I need. And the answers they get may not actually solve their problems, but only increase their burdens. So I think people need to find what works for them. And I'm humbled and grateful that at least in my companies or my relationships, and to those who have reached out to me, they see something, or they've heard from others, or they've had a chance to be one-on-one with me, or been in any of my close-knit roundtables to hear advices that I've given to various people around the world.
Well, Your Majesty, I think it's incredible too, because I think a lot of times when people speak about the spiritual side, they think that they have to choose business or they have to choose the spiritual side. And you have been so successful in business and brought billions of dollars into economies all over the world. And you've done it through staying true to that wisdom part of it and exposing people to the heart of who you are. The question I have for you is, has there ever been a leader that's come to you and you haven't been able to solve their challenge with this simple wisdom that you speak of?
Maybe one or two may have come to me that I couldn't help. And maybe the reason why maybe the reason why I couldn't help them is, you see, the true thing about wisdom is this: wisdom is supposed to be selfless. And if you genuinely have something that can benefit others, that it will bring you fulfillment. But if it's for self gratification, which is for me, I and myself, then there's no need to even continue. I don't want my wisdom or my experience to promote egoistic individual who would take what I have to give them for I, me, and myself. So I always remind people that, you know what, if you are asking for help, remember that when you are helped, you should help others as well. I took this principle from my great teacher, because everybody needs to have a teacher. My teacher is called JS, Jesus Christ. And my teacher says this to Peter: Peter, the devil has desired to have you and sift you as wheat. I've prayed for you. So when you get converted, strengthen your brethren also. Wisdom is not supposed to be held captive. It's supposed to be freed. If you have knowledge, wisdom, understanding, experience, wealth, idea, and that cannot benefit anybody else, then you will be of no use to society. And the fact is this: we all concern ourselves. I don't want to feel used. I don't want to be used. I don't want to be used. If you don't get used, then you are not of use to anybody. Somehow, somebody got to use you, no matter how you feel. If you don't want to be used, then you'll be of use to nobody. That is the name of the game. Make yourself a tunnel, a conduit, a source, a bridge, a wire that current can flow through to touch other lives and make other lives better. At the end of the day, what is the legacy we leave behind? What are we going to be remembered by? And what to be said about us when we are gone? Not after we just passed, but years into our demise. Who will remember that we changed their lives, changed their address, give them education, benefited their communities, and give hope to countless people? I want to be remembered, and I want to make sure that nobody forgets me when I'm gone. So I'm working to be remembered.
Your magic.
And Jesus made this statement. I'm getting excited now. Jesus said this. He said to his disciples, he said, you know what? Do this in remembrance of me. Don't forget me. I'm having communion with you. I'm breaking bread with you, but I want you to do this often so you don't forget me. When you do good, when you change lives, when you impact people, those who you disciple will be the very ones who will make sure you are not forgotten.
Your Majesty, I started the podcast. Well, number one, Mache. I said it right? Did I say it right?
You
Mache.
said it right, sir. Yeah.
Mache. I'm gonna keep saying it. Mache. Mache. Mache.
Yeah.
To all my Ghanaians out there, Mache.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
better than advertised. The reason why I started the podcast is because two people, they're my son and my daughter, Maddox, who's 11 years old, and my daughter, who's 14 years old. My son, Maddox, marches to the beat of his own drum. He is like he's like a cartoon character. My daughter is in the performing arts, and she has the most sarcastic personality you could ever imagine. We go to school every day and I say, "You're the greatest." And she says, "I know." I say, "I love you." She says, "Who wouldn't?" And then slams the door on me and goes to school. That's her personality. I started the podcast because of those two individuals, and I wanted to take iconic people, although they've never heard from the Mache. And I wanted to take iconic people like yourself, Your Majesty, and I wanted to show them that anything in the world was possible as long as you had the right attitude and the right work ethic. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could say both their names, it would be awesome.
Maddox and McKenna, you are leaders of your own and unique in your lives. Maintain it. And let me say something to you. I am proud to hear that when your father says to you, you are beautiful, you say you know it. And you are telling him the truth. Because if you don't know it, then whoever tells you will actually be playing with your head. But if you know it, then it keeps you very sober and more responsible to make use of who you are in your beauty. I mean, the unique thing is, for both of you, you are leaders, exceptional, extraordinary in your lives, and you are going to affect many people. Now, when somebody says to me that you are a king, definitely my answer is thank you. Why? Because I know it. So when you say to your daughter, "You pretty," or "I love you," definitely she expects to hear from you because that is his normal order. That means she is one who is ahead of her time. She actually makes decisions early and she processes who she is as an individual. So nobody can confuse her of her agenda, confuse her of who she is as an individual or what she can become. She knows that God will tell her who she can become. Daddy will reinforce who she can become. And she is actually on the right path, being what she knows she's going to become. So for both of them, they're on the right track. Let me say something to encourage the precious ones too. When I was young, I had a teacher who didn't like me because I was left-handed and I wrote with my left. And he always tells me that I would never amount to anything. He ridiculed me in class and he made me feel so awful in class. Yet I wasn't a bad student. I was one of the best in my class. Not the first or second, but the first six of the class. I'm always within the first six of a class of 48. This teacher always said to me, "You will never amount to anything." Until one day I asked myself, who is this teacher who is trying to define what my future will be? He is not my God. He's just a teacher to help me through the process of education, but he's not my mom, he's not my dad, and he's not God. So I looked at myself in the mirror and I spoke to myself and I called his name out. And I said that what you said is not true. You are not God. And I am going to become what God says I am. I broke that influence of my life. From that day, I never allow his opinion to destroy my life. And I always say, if God didn't say it and it's somebody's opinion, achieve the dream that others will say is impossible. And there's nothing one cannot do if you set your mind on it. Everybody can achieve whatever they set on doing because it takes discipline. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. And it takes intentionality and consistently. If you are doing it consistently and you don't feel tired doing what you love to do, you achieve it. How do you know this is what you're supposed to do in your life? Anything that you do that you enjoy doing, even if you don't get any praise or any money or any thank you, or you've done well and you still do, that is your life's mission. So when I knew earlier what I was called to do, I made sure that my inspiration comes from my life's purpose. I was born for this, I'm called for this, I'm going to do it, and that is what propelled me. So I speak to your beautiful children. Their future is great. And this is from the king to a prince and a princess. You precious prince and precious princess, there's nothing you cannot achieve. You have an excellent dad, an amazing mother, and you kids are on your way up. Don't stop and don't look back. Go as far as you can go, and the world will soon follow you.
I do have to tell you, because I asked Maddox right before I left. I said, son, you know what daddy's doing today? He said, what, dad? He said, what, dad? I said, daddy gets to spend time with a king. And I said, what question would you ask the king? And you know what he said?
What do you say?
He said, I wouldn't have any questions. But if you could tell him to just keep acting right, then that would be good, daddy. So I need to tell you from Maddox, Mache, keep acting right.
And I take this, tell Prince Maddox that the Macha says his advice is well taken. I will act right.
Your Majesty, what message do you have for the Ghanaians out there, whether they're in America and they're living here or they're in your country? What message do you have to each and every one of them?
My fellow Ghanaians, fellow Africans, fellow sons and daughters of diaspora, and those who have actually extended their journeys to pursue greener pastures, don't forget your roots. Your fruits is only as strong as you recognize your roots. And remember, you have obligation to let where you came from shine. Remember, where you are today is to make a difference. Where you are today is to improve lives. And where you are today is to demonstrate the excellence of your culture and your resilience in life. Nothing comes easy and nothing comes free. Demonstrate that you deserve what you've gained and you're even going to work very hard to make lives better. Be a good representative, ambassador of your country. And to you, my fellow Africans and Ghanaians, remember, you can make the world better also. Instead of asking what you can get from America, ask yourself, what can I add to make America better? And do your best and let your works speak for you.
Your Majesty, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I am going to ask you in front of all the people because then you have to say yes to me. I'm going to ask you because I want you on the show again. And I'm going to force you to be my friend for the rest of your life, so you can't get rid of me anyway. So I want to thank you. It's way better than advertised. I want to thank every single person out there listening, our sponsors, and for helping us to get into the top 1% of all podcasts globally. And it's because every one of you guys listening. And I promise you, my promise to every one of you listening is I will continue to make friends with some of the greatest people on the earth, which is the King here right now with us. It's amazing to be able to hear your wisdom. It's humbling. But it's amazing because you empower people and you shine the light. My pops would always say to me, he'd say, boy, the largest person in the room will become small so everyone else can become big. And that's what you've done today. And I want to thank you for that, Your Majesty.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful, very humbled, and I thank you from the very depth of my heart. And on behalf of all the wonderful people that you've served faithfully over this time, thank you for allowing me to come to your homes. And thank you for allowing your host, Kelly, to invite me to you. I'm grateful. And I'll confirm I will be back when you invite me. You got me.
Your Majesty, you have been amazing. You are officially off the hot seat.
Thank you.